Look! Oh, snap! Check out the countdown. Oh, snap! That means ropes is going down. Let's get it! Being that it's Friday, the start of Pro Wrestling Weekend, her opponents feel the voodoo. She brings all the fans to Team Vision Dojo, which will be this Friday night. But that's later. Star Gina Sais Quoi joins Off the Top Rope live this Friday afternoon on this Off the Top Rope Friday afternoon special with your boy Ty Asbury. This episode, I have to put it this way, I think it's going to be an episode you'll want to fear.
Yeah. Tyrone Asbury. Yo. Yeah. I need y'all to listen to me right now as I take you on this journey. Podcast journey. Where only the greats can make it to this level.
It is Friday afternoon. You know what's going down, of course. Off the Top Rope is back after it's been a long time. The ropes is back. I'm your boy Ty Asbury. I'm going to say this right now. Of course, you got so many talented wrestlers today up and coming doing their thing. But there is one lady you got to keep an eye on, of course. She is the one, the only voodoo queen I know in wrestling. She is Gina Sais Quoi. Gina, my dear, how you doing?
Thanks for having me, Ty. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic because I got to say this. You know, Gina, I've been researching, doing what you're doing. I mean, you wrestle, you got your own website, merchandise, dolls, everything. Girl, you're badass.
Hey, thanks, man. I mean, as you can see, I've got some voodoo dolls behind me too. Now, voodoo isn't just my character in wrestling. I actually am a real voodoo priestess. So even in the room I'm in right now, I've got a lot of different little, voodoo memorabilia around me. So I'm really immersed in it.
Yeah. Do you do the type of, it sounds like to me it's a positive voodoo, like where you may make people feel just stressed, not take the stress from people, make them feel relaxed and just at ease because we don't like stress in our lives. I sure as hell don't. So, like, can you tell people watching the show, like, how do you help them with that? Is that something like where you do it, it just calms and eases the mind?
Yeah, voodoo, when it comes down to it, I mean, truly is a religion. And being in North America, Louisiana voodoo is what we're most connected with. Have you ever gone to New Orleans?
I actually have, and I remember when I went to New Orleans, I just ate. I just ate my butt off. I mean, from chicken to coleslaw, I just ate. But lovely place though. So
I know the food's awesome there. And you may be familiar with beignets, and that is actually the name of my puppy, Beignet. Now in voodoo, it's very spiritual, of course, and a lot of it is focused on so much positivity. And there are also the other sides of voodoo where it's a little bit more fun. And that is where I kind of incorporated into my wrestling character. I make voodoo dolls of my enemies, and I actually use real human hair when I do it too. So very authentic.
man, girl, that's authentic as authentic can be. I never heard that before, and I've been saying it all week long. Like, it's just really cool how, like, I always think, and you can really answer this question for me, Gina. Wrestlers want to take it beyond and creating their character. The fact to use like real human hair for these dolls, like, I mean, that's I never heard that before, and like, has that really opened the eye of promoters and promotions? Like, man, that's an eye opener. Like, that's attracting us to bring you in.
I mean, it's definitely different. And of course, there's been other characters throughout wrestling who have had that, like, the voodoo vibe to them. I've never seen a woman truly do it justice. And when I came into wrestling, voodoo was my first love, and I've been practicing it for so many years now. So coming into wrestling, I mean, it really just felt right because this is who I am. and I wanted to incorporate it into the ring. So I am able to bring those really unique sides of it. I'm also a hairdresser, so that's probably why the
Man.
human hair kind of comes into it. I am not using the hair from anybody that I cut their hair, but I mean, think about it like kind of more like extensions and like
Yeah.
hair that you get from a store is
Yeah.
that kind of hair. So there's a line that I don't cross either when it comes to being too creepy or even too mean. But it really does set me apart.
Well, you sure as heck can't get it from me, but that's the thing about it. But that's a really cool thing. And people, it's like today, you can't, I guess you could say the word toxic, and especially within the wrestling community. I love wrestling, I love the fans, but people want to have their saying. But I could tell you're so into who you are, into your character, that you put so much effort into your character with the dolls and everything you're doing. And I really admire what you're doing. And you got something really big going on. I think it's going to take you past, Team Dojo Wrestling, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's going to open up the doors for so many promotions for you. And Gina, you're doing something right, because it's like your character is just like she really takes real serious in what she does, and that's what you're doing.
I so appreciate that. Thanks.
Uh, no doubt. Now, I want to ask you. You know a lot about New Orleans. You're now in good old Orlando, Florida. Get some sunshine. What was there a reason behind you left New Orleans to go to Orlando? Was it that the wrestling scene wasn't happening in New Orleans? And you're like, well, Orlando is a big wrestling area. Just it's Florida, the whole thing. And you're like thinking, I got to get to Florida if I want to make this happen. Is that the reason behind that?
Well, to be honest, my career, my day job when I'm not wrestling, I actually travel. I work for a hair company that has, professional hair color and products. It's named Q and Hair Cosmetics. And they're privately owned, family owned. And what I do for them is I'll travel to different states and different areas, and I'll work with their salespeople as well as the hairdressers in that area. So I'm able to help hairdressers become better hairdressers in that sense. So really, a big part of what I do, I travel, I'm out on the road, and being in Louisiana as often as I had been, and my love for New Orleans, that's never been a place where I ever feel completely detached from. I still get to visit there for work often. And as far as living in Florida goes, it really was more of a family decision. My whole
Yeah.
family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, my dad, everybody fully moved down to Florida, and we all live within 20 minutes of each other.
That's cool, because
Really
it's like,
cool.
yeah, it's really
Yeah.
cool, really cool. Yeah, it's like, hey, if I'm wrestling so much, traveling, training, I'm kind of hungry. I'll go down to Dad's or whoever to get something to eat before I hit the road. So yeah, that's what family's for, but in a good way.
Oh,
Families a good thing. Family's a good thing to have. Excuse me, but I was really wondering that because you really, I don't know how far Orlando is from New Orleans. That's like, I guess, a big step for you, but it's really paying off for you because look what you're doing for Team Dojo. I mean, you're kicking ass, taking names, making yourself, a big name for yourself in the pro wrestling ring, and that's all that matters.
yeah. Honestly, and being in Orlando is such a great opportunity for wrestling because where I'm training, it's like less than a mile from the WWE training center. So it still feels, it just the connection to other wrestling promotions and opportunities is stronger here in Florida, especially in Orlando.
Orlando, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Now, we got to, and I mean, like I said, when you leave the show today, I want to make sure that fans know who you are because, like I said, you are doing big things in the ring, Gina. And what do you want fans to know about you in the ring? And what do you want to tell fans? Hey, if you don't watch a Gina Sais Quoi match, what are you missing out on? Gina, let the fans know. Check me out because I am the baddest thing going today.
If you have ever wanted to see somebody be beat up by their own voodoo doll, that's one of the reasons why you should watch one of my matches. Like I mentioned before, I make voodoo dolls of my opponents, but when I say I make them of my opponents, right down to the piercings, the tattoos, their hair color, and their outfit, it has to be completely genuine because I really do want to hurt my opponent with their own voodoo doll. I and I love wrestling because it gives me the opportunity just to be mean and hurt people, and I think that is just so fun, especially if it's like your job to do it. So I mean, I love that freedom of being there, and I love being able to incorporate voodoo into it because this is my genuine love. So yeah, if you're a fan of creepy stuff, voodoo dolls, and really mean girls, you'd probably love my matches.
Oh yeah, and you got those gritty fans who just love the eye gouge, and I can see you doing a gouge in the eyes. Like you're just so, I can't stress this enough. You're just so creative, and Gina, you said the thing about wrestling. Wrestling, there's no ending to not being want to be creative. You got so much more you can do with your character. Like it's beyond like belief. I mean, it's just so much more you can do. I mean, the voodoo dolls, everything. Like I'm excited for the summer, the spring, what you got in store for your opponents. Honestly, I feel bad for them, but I'm excited for you. I got goosebumps. I got the off the top rope goosebumps over here this afternoon.
Man, I so appreciate that. And, I love connecting with, just fans of wrestling in general, as well as fans of my own. And because I incorporate voodoo dolls into the matches and things like that, I actually, on my website, I have customized voodoo dolls that I can make of anybody. So if you even love that about my wrestling side and you like voodoo and all that creepy stuff, I can make a custom voodoo doll of anybody. So I also have that available, and I also make like little juju bags, mojo bags, all that fun little voodoo stuff. So it's also a really cool way to get to connect with the wrestling community when it comes to that.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about social media, that's really, I guess you say, have grown the wrestling community today. I mean, social media has helped wrestlers like yourself. I mean, you can reach out to promoters. Hey, looking for workers, talent, and everything. And how's that been for you? Because I mean, see, your website's big. You got your email. How has that helped you with social media and going to other promotions? I mean, the dojo has helped you out a lot, but how has other promotions embraced you and wanting to come in and kick ass for them?
I've had a lot of different promotions just contact me and say that they like, just that they like my wrestling style and what I do in the ring and how it's unique and different. So a few of the promotions I'm going to be working up with next are out of state. In July 7th, I'm going to be doing Gatomania in Georgia. So that one's going to be fun. My career, as far as being the hairdressing life, we're actually based in Atlanta, so it's kind of close-ish to home. So it feels good in that sense. Also, I'll be working with Liberty Pro Wrestling in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'll be doing that in October soon. So I've got a lot of things coming up that way, but those are two of the ones that I'm most excited about.
Well, October is my birthday, so a present, from you to me is, definitely get the 1, 2, 3 and beat the crap out of them. So,
Yeah.
I'm holding you to that. But yeah, like I said, definitely when I want to plug all your stuff later on here on the broadcast. I want you to go over everything that you just touched upon here on Off the Top Rope. And everybody, it's Friday afternoon. We're getting ready for the weekend. And one thing I want you to smile about before getting ready for the weekend. You got Gina Sais Quoi here on Off the Top Rope. Whatever you're at work, whatever you're doing, school, hey, you may get in trouble, but put on the ropes right now. We got a good episode. I'm back on Off the Top Rope. I've been away for so long. I'm glad to be back with the headset and the microphone here on the show this afternoon. Now, Gina, I want to roll this clip for you because I made this definitely for you because we've been talking about this a lot as well. So, I call this, hey, no shit, you making your own freaking wrestling gear. That is badass. And the fact that you make your own wrestling gear, and I want to ask you, where do you even begin to make your own wrestling gear? Because you got to create it, you got to sew it. Like how do you even do it?
Oh, fun fact. When I was growing up, my teenage years, my younger 20s, I lived in Connecticut. And when I was there, I wasn't too far from New York City. I ended up having a clothing line, and I developed it when I was 16. I was still in high school when I did it. So I was making clothes when I was very young, and at that time, like it was 2008, so the economy wasn't in a great place. So it was either I continue a fashion degree or I go into hairdressing with a little bit more of a stable career. So that's kind of where it branched off. So I kept fashion design as almost like a hobby in a sense, but I was able to do a lot of really great, just really, really cool fashion shows and photo shoots. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with the Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut at their Hard Rock. I did a fashion show there and had all my clothing line completely, everything made by hand. So I started that when I was very young. And throughout the years, I'll still make custom, like very couture, hand created clothing. A lot of like, I did a lot of big wedding dresses and prom dresses. And I even made my sister's wedding dress. So that whole part of me, I've always loved creating. And I made clothes when I was younger, and I originally wanted that as my first career in a sense. But that part, that passion, that part of me has always stayed with me. So throughout the years and getting into wrestling, like I loved that I could use that creative side and start putting my own like talent of making clothes into my wrestling gear. So I make everything that I wear, and it takes, I mean, it takes a long time too.
Time.
Especially, I'm wearing the top of that outfit that you just showed on that picture, and I mean, it's all hand sewn. I have Mardi Gras beads, I've got rhinestones, and I mean, it takes a very long time to make it, and of course, it's custom designed to fit my body. So that just, it's a lot of effort to do that, but by doing this, it makes me a little bit more authentic because I can create who I want to be, like as a whole, as an entire image. So I find time for it in like I don't really have a lot of time in my schedule, but
Yeah, I was
I'll
about to say,
find
yeah.
time.
Yeah, it's like you find time. I'm like, man, you said the top that I showed in the clip there takes you forever to sew it together. I'm like, well, you gotta, family, travel, training, get ready for matches. I'm like, yeah, how's she find the freaking time to do that? That's only Gina can do that. That's insane. But props to you for doing. I couldn't do it, but props to you for doing that. That is unbelievable though, because you don't have to worry about a tailor. Like it's all you. So something don't fit, you have to go to person A, B, or C. You're right there. I'm like, well, I can fix that. I can fix this. So
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, I love that about me too, that I'm able to juggle all that. And it's very hard to juggle, but it just makes, it makes wrestling even more enjoyable that I could put this extra little bit of effort into it too. And I mean, like you said, if anything goes wrong, I could fix it real quick.
man, it's just a really cool thing. Like I said, your story is unbelievable. The fact that you've built so much for yourself wrestling. I mean, clothes, wrestling gear, and it's just a really cool thing too. Like I said, that's why I'm glad you're on the show this afternoon, so fans can see what your future is. The great things you're doing. You know, for wrestling. And talent may come to you, say, "Hey, Gina, can you make me some gear or something?" So, hey, the
I have
world, hey,
had
you never,
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, but, Gina, when you look at your career up this far, up to this point, as we talk this Friday afternoon, is there one thing about, say, that's something in the ring that you've really gotten really great at, and you're just like, man, like it took me a while, but I've got the hang of it. Like something in your wrestling resume, outside of wrestling, promos in the ring, something that's just like, mwah, like New Orleans food, so good.
I mean, I can't even pinpoint one thing specifically. I try to put a lot of effort into it, like just in general, because there's so
Yeah,
many different facets to wrestling. And honestly, more than anything, I feel like, I'll be honest with you. Growing up, I was never into sports. Like I
yeah,
was not part of, sports teams and all that stuff. So coming into wrestling, the hardest thing for me was that in-ring action and just being able to just just have that in-ring awareness of like what move to do next and what is my opponent going to do and how can I work alongside them, and put on something great. And so I feel like the moves that I do, I want them to be very unique to myself. So when I figure out like my little wrestling repertoire of the moves that I like doing the most, I feel like that's really it when it comes to how much effort I put into it. I like looking into like the 90s Japanese women's wrestling, for
Oh yeah, it's
example.
badass.
It's like those little things where it's not so much like I don't want to focus so much on today's wrestling or what today's wrestlers are doing. I want to look back at the past and see how exciting it was because I mean if you've compared to like wrestling in the 90s and wrestling as it is today, there's some differences. There
There's
really
difference.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
difference.
I
It's real.
mean,
It's real difference. Yeah, and you're
yeah.
right. You're right about that. Yeah, I mean, the night for me as a fan, foremost, is it's hard to explain. Like, and honestly, Gene, you're right. I actually constantly hit my head like, how is the '90s different from today? I mean, I think now, for me personally, I think talent takes too many risks today. That's just my personal opinion, but I still think wrestlers there are more athletic than back then. But either way, wrestling is wrestling. But but I think what you guys do today, it's just like really cool because talent are just doing stuff that are just way and beyond. But I like the key thing that you said. You said that you studied wrestling back in the day, and there's nothing wrong with studying the 90s or 80s to take notes. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And I mean, coming from like never being into sports in the past and then jumping into it, I mean, I feel like that was the biggest struggle for me is to find my place and what I like the most as far as like what I physically do in the ring. So I mean, it's been, of course, that's a struggle finding yourself in that kind of sense.
Yeah. Well, we all know one place you found yourself in, and that's the dojo. And I call this next segment, we won't call it the oh no, it's time for the dojo. So this clip I made especially for you. Now this clip is like was that clip I just saw real quick, you throwing your opponent down. Was that something like a move you wanted to try or like something that was kind of like already done for that clip? And as well as I see with the dojo, looks like a very small facility. And is that good to learn because your teacher may have an emphasis on being able to help you out where there's so many people where your teacher may not be able to get to you, like if that makes sense?
I mean, to be honest, although visually, when it came to like the way the matches are filmed, like what you just saw in that scene, it looks like it's a smaller building, but a lot of wrestling facilities promotions, they are in a little bit of a smaller building and just kind of the ring is the focus and you've got seating all around the outside. So I love the way this dojo is set up, especially when it comes to a training center. You've got a really great focus on the ring, so every move in a match everybody can see it perfectly, and that's a good part about it being a little bit more of that cozy like smaller knit. We have really great people who end up visiting and watching all of our matches. And it's so nice in that sense where we get that direct attention and that direct love, not just from our trainers, but from people who come in and watch our events. Every 3 weeks, every 3 Friday nights is when we have our event matches at the dojo. And I mean, everybody there, they work. I mean, we work our butts off, and only a small portion of the wrestlers that you see during the show, we have got more people training than that. It just kind of, you know, the way that the school is set up, you can come in and train like as a group class. You can also do private classes. So when you first start off at Team Vision, I mean, within about 6 weeks or so, you could be doing your first match. And that's one thing that I really do love because you get that, direct one-on-one attention. Personally, because of my schedule, I do private classes. So I go weekly basis, I do private classes, and it gives me the creativity to be able to kind of research wrestling, figuring out like what moves I like, what wrestlers I've liked from the past, what do I like specifically about them, and have those creative moments with my trainer to develop moves and just kind of create more of the character setting in the match. So I mean, there's so many opportunities just being at that school. And of course, there's a lot of different wrestling training facilities in Orlando, but I've already checked them all out too. And I found out that with Team Vision, I can get private classes. I can make my schedule however it needs to be for my busy life and still have these really great opportunities. And, the trainers there, they have trained people in WWE and in AEW, Impact. I mean, every big promotion you could think of.
That's a really cool thing about the background, because I've had guests on the show before who've studied or came from, Team Vision Dojo, and it's like they give you that plate of success. I mean, it's like you're in that river with them, you're swimming back, and you're really at the right place, because a lot of wrestlers I've talked to said this is the place to be, and you're on the right track. I mean, like you said, WWE prospects, AEW, Impact, NWA. So the dojo is doing something right. We're not finished with the dojo yet. Let's go to another clip. Also said, if you if you want to be a wrestler, if you could say, Gina, 1 or 2 reasons why is this the place to be to go to the dojo? I mean, you pretty much answered it, but why should aspiring wrestlers go to the dojo?
I mean, it is just such a very welcoming environment. It's just, even the wrestlers there, like, even though they're your opponents, you get to have that kind of working relationship with them. And then you get to find wrestlers that you could be like a tag team with. And you just have a lot of different opportunities at Team Vision. Like I said, there's group classes, there's private classes. It's very customized, not just for your schedule, but what you are really looking for, not just for wrestlers. You could go there to be a wrestling manager, a ring announcer. I actually was a ring announcer when I first started. So it's really cool that you can even go there to train to be a referee. There's just so many opportunities there.
Yeah,
and great people too.
Like I said, and that's the thing, whether you're going to a wrestling school or in a wrestling promotion. I mean, I've heard the stories about there could be some chaos in wrestling, but when you go to a good wrestling promotion or school, that's one thing that makes wrestling the place to be in. Like you said, the dojo being a great place. Sounds like you guys are family. And that's one thing that it sounds like to me, that makes you want to be better at, the facility you're at. Everybody is all in it to make each other better. And that is the number one thing about, everyone just being one. Now, Gina, this is your first time on Off the Top Rope. So this segment, I'm going to try to stump you, but this is going to be in a good way. You ready for the next segment?
Ready.
All right, here we go.
Damn, Ty. That's good.
Here we go. The segment is okay. Now, the perfect gimmick match for you. If you had to create your own, what would it be?
Now, when it comes to a gimmick match, I feel like I've already done one that I perfectly loved. I did it with Amber Nova, and she had also gone to the Team Vision Dojo in the past, and she's been on AEW, NXT. She is a total doll. Yeah. I got to do an awesome match with her, and it was she was actually the first little voodoo doll that I made, and I got to use like bugs on her, and like, oh my gosh, it was just like I had crickets. I've brought crickets at times to my like I did it on Halloween too. When I can incorporate bugs into it, it'd just be a little extra weird. And like I said, I love the voodoo doll. I actually have Amber's right over here. I'll show you.
I gotta see this.
Taking into consideration, this was the first voodoo doll that I made of a wrestling opponent. This is my little Amber doll. And from here, I have made them a lot. I have definitely made higher quality voodoo dolls than this, but I have my Amber one still because it was the first one. It was just it was a really great fun match. And I love that it kind of opened the doors in a sense to do more of the doll stuff. So yeah, gimmick match. I want to use a voodoo doll. I want to hurt my opponent with the doll. I want bugs. I just want it to be like, I've also had a really great hardcore match in the past. And I mean, if it could have blood in it too, that would be perfect.
Man, perfect. And we all know wrestling fans are so thirsty for that blood. We all know they did this. I don't know. Wrestling fans, they just love blood. They and that's fine. I do too. I mean, but not too much, but nothing wrong with some good old blood. And like I said, I mean, I can see you definitely some more hardcore matches will be badass, but definitely you and Amber Nova. I've had her on the show, which is a few years ago, And I have to go back and watch that match if I can find it. But yeah, you in a hardcore match, love it. And too, definitely with the Voodoo dolls. And Gina, I want to definitely say, as we of course wrap up this afternoon episode of Off the Top Rope, you said it before, you got some stuff coming up, of course, and I want you to slam and promote what you have coming up next. And I got everything for you, social media, your website. So let the fans know, Gina, what do you got coming up next?
Awesome. Well, like I mentioned earlier, Team Vision Dojo, we have events called I Believe in Wrestling. That's every 3 Fridays. So the next one, I know it's going to be June 2nd. I'll be part of that one. And every match is going to be totally different and unique. And sometimes I'll fight women, and this time I'll be fighting against men. I also have Gatomania July 7th coming up in Georgia. And then I'll also be working with Liberty Pro Wrestling in Memphis, Tennessee. So those are my up and coming ones.
Man, like I said, from making her dolls, her gear, own website, badass wrestler, bright future, Gina Sais Quoi, something like that I could say. Like I said, she was today's live guest on Off the Top Rope for this Friday afternoon. And Gina, I want to say first and foremost, I'm proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep beating people up, making the dolls, scaring people. Like I said, all the promotions out there. Like I said, the thing about it before I leave too is that you go overseas. You got Japan. It's just so much you can do in wrestling. Like wrestling today, there's so many promotions out there. It's like,
There's so much to wrestling. And I mean, there's so much to love about it. And I so appreciate you giving me the chance to talk with you on here. And, it means a lot, all your words that you just said. So thanks so much for having me, man.
Oh, it's not a problem. And before we roll out of here, from 1 to 10, Gina, would you ever come back on Off the Top Rope again?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 10, of course.
10, of course.
Yeah.
Thank
Definitely.
you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your boy Ty Asbury. Thank you for watching this episode of Off the Top Rope. My live guest this afternoon, of course, she is the Voodoo Queen. My live guest was, of course, Gina Sais Quoi. Like I said, give her a round of applause. Follow her and watch her do big things in wrestling. I'm your boy Ty Asbury. As I always say, love yourselves, love God. We are out of here. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Yeah. Tyrone Asbury. Yo. Yeah. I need y'all to listen to me right now as I take you on this journey. Podcast journey. Only the greats can make it to this level. Ever since I was the younger man, I was podcast